We were live here Friday. We're live today on this Monday edition, the 29th day of September, 2014. Before we knew any details of the beheading and attempted beheading, wounding of another woman at a factory facility up in Oklahoma, and it wasn't hard to guess that it would be connected to radical Islam. But you see the media response since it's come out that indeed that's what happened, to trying to cover it up. And I'm not one here calling for a Cold War with Muslims. I'm not an Islamophobe. Everybody knows that. But at the same time, when you have a real radical Islamic offensive that we've been talking about for a long time, 4 years at least, being launched worldwide and being funded by the highest levels of NATO and Western governments, you've got to ask, what's the end game plan here? Well, it's to bring in basically martial law under the name security. I mean, I was listening to local talk radio today. I was watching the news this morning and over the weekend. They were saying, oh, looks like those military equipment are needed to fight ISIS. Looks like it was the right thing to do. Was it military equipment, armored vehicles, checkpoints, NSA surveillance that stopped Alton Noland, who tried to chop two women's heads off and successfully chopped one woman's head off before being shot by the CEO of the facility, who had his concealed carry and mitigated it? Money on it, this guy would have probably stabbed 10, 15 people. And, of course, you could go look Saturday, and they already had found his Facebook with him showing off with the Islamic State flag and the rest of it, promoting Islamic State. And they were on CNN this morning saying, gee, we wonder if it's connected to any of that. Oh, my goodness, we don't know. He is literally, in the last 6 months, been radicalized, hanging around with these people. He was a football enthusiast / Oklahoma Christian 6.5 months ago on his Facebook post, and then got immersed in a, quote, radical mosque. So he kind of went from being a football player, godfather, thug life type guy, somebody who was on the edge, wanting to be tough, wanting to be a man. And I've pointed out that the way they use Facebook and Twitter, we're really seeing trendies with ISIS patches. We're really seeing it because celeb. We're really seeing it being promoted and pushed by the Muslim Brotherhood. And out of Kenya through Obama's cousins and half-brother and others, we really are seeing Google behind the Arab Spring and our government trying to overthrow the former Egyptian dictatorship of Hosni Mubarak to put something in far worse. And then our media criticizing the military after a year of tyrannical rule by the Muslim Brotherhood. Something like 20 million Egyptians hit the streets protesting it. So the military took back over, stopped letting them burn down all the churches and crucify people. And our media, CNN, actually criticized it. So let's get one thing straight here. The people running our government, the special interest, are protecting, are funding, are shepherding, are opening the door for radical Wahhabist Islam to launch a jihad worldwide. And the whole buildup of Homeland Security in the last 12, 13 years was in preparation for this, so that we will accept the police state takeover, which will then be flipped onto the liberty movement. Now, I told you that before it happened 13 years ago. It's now happened. You've now seen the flip begin. But they need another push to get the cops, the military, everybody to go along with it, so that they get in place, get accustomed to going through the motions before they publicly stage false flags in America and turn them loose on anybody who isn't a communist or a sympathizer with the globalist. We're going to break it all down straight ahead. Every day I seem to come on air and say, wow, our plate is certainly full, but that is not an attempt to make the broadcast sound interesting. I am completely overwhelmed, bellying up to this nightmaric bonanza, this virtual cornucopia of craziness. But sticking our heads in the sand will only make it worse. So that's why we're here to break it down as a radar system and to try to navigate the planet terra firma approaching its carrying capacity for 7,350 plus million souls aboard this planetoid. So fantastic to be here. Again, I'm extremely honored to be your host, but it's even more fantastic, obviously, to be a conscious, sentient being experiencing this existence with all of you. We are all truly brothers and sisters in that experience, no matter which side we serve. So always remember how epic consciousness is. The system, first and foremost, seeks to shudder the mind, to make you feel pointless and weak, and to make you bored, and to make you only tune in to their attempt at false reality that is the state-run media and the controlled Hollywood culture. It is an attempt for them to force you into their artificial consciousness, their system of total control. And this revolt that I am only a small part of is truly a revolt demanding free will and for the self-determination to at least be able to make some of the basic decisions governing all of our individual and, yes, collective destinies as a species. I am honored to be here. Thank you so much. The news websites are Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. Obviously, we have Obama coming out saying that they underestimated Islamic State threat. Islamic State was built by NATO, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, basically everyone in the Middle East but Iran and Syria and Egypt and Libya. Doesn't matter if a country was our ally or neutral, it's been overthrown and handed over to Islamic State, known as Al-Qaeda, known as Wahhabis, known as Sunni radical arm, the paramilitary takeover arm of Saudi Arabia. And this is all being done because they know the military finally clicked, finally had a paradigm moment when the light bulb ignited above the head and realized, oh my gosh, there's a global shadow corporate chaos organization that consolidates power out of worldwide crises that is protecting and shepherding radical Islam. And we don't want to be part of it. And so once this force had been turned loose, now they have to have some staged bombings of it to try to get the narrative back to Homeland Security and the other Homeland Security systems in Australia, England, Germany, you name it. They need to now legitimize, not just to us, but to their own people who are really now sitting back, decompartmentalizing. So we have that. We have a little small hors d'oeuvre with 36 confirmed dead when a volcano erupted in Japan, spewing ash and toxic fumes. By comparison, in the reports I've got here, they estimate that the Yellowstone volcano, the supervolcano, the biggest known in the world, there's several, but it's now active. I want to say that again, active. And with their computer algorithms, they estimate it will erupt soon. Now, that means the next 100 years, but now it's moving even quicker. They think it erupts every few million. That it is between 10 and 20,000 times bigger than what this volcano eruption was. Hundreds of times bigger than Mount St. Helens, covering more than half the United States in molten ash, changing the climate of the planet, sending us into a dark age. It erupted 2.1 million years ago, 1.3 million years ago, 640,000 years ago, according to the isotope readings. The biggest eruption was 640,000 years ago. And I'm not saying this is imminent in a human lifetime scale, but it just shows you when they say we need to have stable climate and pay a UN body and Homeland Security domestically, quote, prosecute green crimes of not throwing your recycling away or whatever, that it has nothing to do with protecting anybody. And everything about surveilling and micromanaging every facet of our lives as a world unifying religion that isn't even based on real, sensible environmental crises and problems that are happening that need to be dealt with. It's a cover for all of that, as all the GMO and pharmacological crops and cross-species abominations and human cloning and chimeras, spider goats, it all glow-in-the-dark dogs, all of it racing forward. And we're talking about carbon dioxide and how we've got to have a totally stable climate with no change. The only thing that's stable is change. The only thing constant is change. The only thing that continues to happen is change. Anyone with a literal IQ of 60 points knows that. But they insult everyone's intelligence. I saw, no exaggeration, probably 25 articles or more last week. Mainstream headlines, Smithsonian, NASA, Washington Post, CBS. No one questions climate change. It's now not global warming. And then quotes about we must not have climate change denial and we must get the taxes in place to do it. And Obama's going to act with executive orders regardless to protect us from climate change. When giant asteroids hit the earth all the time, there's huge volcanoes everywhere. How many civilizations got covered in lava in 5 minutes, like Pompeii? Krakatoa. It's just ridiculous. We're on a planet that hadn't even cooled with about a mile, 2 mile thick, depending on where you're at, some places even thinner, floating islands of mountains and seas flying at hundreds of thousands of miles an hour through space, orbiting a sun out on the edge of a galaxy. And we really are worshiping Hollywood stars and Obama and red carpets. I mean, give me a break. Go out to West Texas when it's a clear sky and no moon. You'll just fall to your knees. It's like the stars are just coming down. The stars are big and bright, deep in the heart of Texas. What's that song I remember singing when I was a kid? The stars at night are big and bright, deep in the heart of Texas. I mean, that's incredible. What's the Bible say? You can see God's handiwork in the firmament. And it is shifting from looking at the dirt and the amoeba-like globalist and shifting and seeing the big picture, transcending them. Just that thought alone begins the journey of escaping this devilish construct they're trying to build. This technological terror they've constructed, to quote Darth Vader. The arrogance and the hubris of the wicked. The fool and his money are quickly parted. More like the fool is quickly parted from his own consciousness and free will. And all I want people to do is to think for themselves. The minute we heard about a beheading and a man trying to behead another person, I mean, we knew what it was going to be. And it's hype. This guy, the so-called suspect, even though he's seen by over 100 people, Alton Nolan, was killed by the CEO of the company in Oklahoma who had his concealed carry. And within a minute and a half of the attack happening, the head of the company went in, the AP reports, and the police report. They were finally forced to report this. This was out on Saturday. He wounded him. A man fired from an Oklahoma food processing plant beheaded a woman with a knife, was attacking another worker when he was shot and wounded by a company official, police said Friday. Alton Nolan, having a Freudian slip saying killing him. I wish he would have killed him. Because that's a true crime of hate, to be able to take a knife and go in and saw somebody's head off. And see, young males that haven't had good fatherly role models, it's just a statistical fact, are 4 to 7 times more likely to end up in prison, to end up being violent, to end up being thugs. It's the exact same statistics for a white kid or a black kid, except that blacks are 2 or 3 times more likely to be illegitimate now. And we've talked a lot about this. And so instead of being a gangster now, because he was into being that previously on his Facebook, a Godfather, Mac Daddy gangster, then in the last 6 months he got into radical Islam, started attending radical mosque, and then, well, look what happened. And it's a pure copycat hype event. But what about real ISIS sleeper cells? I don't have to see for miles and miles, even though I can, to see a screw job in the making happening right in front of me. Here's an example. The U.S. ambassador to the UN said about a week and a half ago, we played the clip here 2 or 3 times, that, yeah, of course, taking out ISIL is about taking out Assad, their archenemy, who's done nothing but fought al-Qaeda for 4 years with our government arming him. And now the Saudi Arabian ambassador to the U.S., the video's up on Infowars.com, came out on 60 Minutes yesterday and said, yeah, we need to take out ISIL, take out Assad. That's how dumb they think we are. It first aired on 60 Minutes. It also then aired on This Morning with anchor Nora O'Donnell. I'm not even going to play the clip, okay? It's just so insulting that, you know what? I don't start fights. I don't back invading countries that haven't done anything and blowing up every church. It's not rocket science to say it's wrong for our government and NATO for 4 years. I know I keep harping on this, but it's just so incredible how dumb they think we are, and I guess we are. To be pumping billions of dollars in, 600 tons of weapons just the last month or so, as Senator Paul talked about, into ISIS. They're not getting whole warehouses of armored vehicles and U.S. Special Forces trucks and U.S. M16s at military bases we just left in eastern or western Iraq. They've been given them. And our military is completely freaked out, and they should be. And all of this is about covering Obama's butt and Hillary Clinton's and the rest of them, and Senator Graham and Senator McCain, who's so angry at Rand Paul, who keeps saying, you met with ISIS. And then he goes, that's ridiculous. Well, actually, I did, but so what? You should go meet with them, too. And then all these headlines. Rand Paul got caught in a hoax. McCain never met with anybody. Bull! I remember 2 years ago showing the video, the photos. He was proud of it. And half the guys he met with are the leaders of Islamic State. But they think you're so dumb, they're still up there lying about it. And now the Saudi Arabian ambassador to the U.S. tells CBS News, yeah, it's about taking out Assad after we take out ISIS. What? It's about turning that place over to Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia conquered it before. Last century. Syria. Damascus. And so it's just all about smoke. So everybody's like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? Oh, I guess we had to take them out. Well, of course, Al-Qaeda needs to be destroyed. It's horrible. And let me tell you, people say, Alex, you're the one always saying terror is fake. Why are you saying Islamic State's a real threat now? Well, I always said there's different types of terror. There's purely provocateur. There's wind-up toys where you find mentally ill people, get them to do it. There's systems where you open the door for terrorists to attack and use the NSA systems to make sure other agencies that are doing their job aren't able to stop them. Because literally like 98% of the government is compartmentalized. It didn't know this stuff was going on. Now that it's all out in the open, it's the decompartmentalization that could destroy the New World Order, folks. I remember 3 years ago at Bilderberg, we got the intel from sources inside that they were having main meetings about how to spin that they weren't behind Al-Qaeda and how to cover it up. The head of NATO was there. And they were really upset because their narrative was being disrupted. And the fact that Arab Spring had been launched by them was starting to come out. And so now Obama's running around saying, we were caught flat-footed. Well, I got bad intelligence. bad intelligence. They have armed over 100,000 of these jihadis, bare minimum, given them the weapons, turned them loose all over the place. And the media has backed them, overthrowing Libya, Syria, Egypt, and other areas. You all saw them do that. So this is a challenge here. Are we this dumb? Well, let me tell you, the public may be dumb. The military's not. They all know the players. They all know what's going on. Let me tell you who else knows. Quote, law enforcement. Only because they actually have to study these groups and organizations. And so they know this is completely phony. So the question is, do you trust a government that's doing stuff like this? That's all I'm saying. Because when we come back, the next phase that I've been warning you about is beheadings in America, then mass shootings of schools, factories, universities, federal buildings, and a big truck full of plastic explosives rolling right into the White House. When Obama will be gone, don't worry when they do that. Oh, he'll be such a hero. Or the president took off a helicopter a minute before when they got a warning. I mean, I'm throwing out these scenarios because I know how they work, so they can't pull them. And believe me, I'm not being arrogant. They watch, they listen, and then this decompartmentalizes all the Secret Service and other people that are good to know what to look for. They could blow up Congress, folks. I'm telling you, they're getting ready to pull something big. My spider sense feels it. You've heard me saying it. Now you're seeing it start. In the past decade, we have witnessed unparalleled scientific discoveries in the area of health. But no one has put together a formula that focuses directly on brain health, nerve growth factors, and optimizing your cellular energy at the same time. DNA Force is one of the most expensive formulas to produce. Some of the ingredients in DNA Force are $12,000 a kilogram. We are using the coveted, patented, only American source of PQQ, CoQ10, and more. You want the best that's out there at the lowest price anywhere? Well, we're bringing you a total win-win. The ultimate value, cutting-edge, trailblazing game changer that also supports the InfoWar. We have produced a limited run of DNA Force, and it will take up to 12 weeks to produce more once we sell out. Secure your DNA Force today at InfoWarsLife.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139. DNA Force from InfoWars. The inventor of the World Wide Web warns of threat to internet freedom, says a global tyranny is taking over. William Benny, number 4 at the NSA, a director of their technical operations and development. They say, even ABC News says, one of the greatest code breakers and mathematicians in NSA history, says it is a total totalitarian takeover with the destruction of free will in mind. I don't know. We now have Sir Tim Berners-Lee saying there's a global takeover. That's AFP. We have the former director of the NSA saying it's a totalitarian takeover. I mean, people say, if there was a takeover happening, people would warn us. There are good people in the system. I had Colonel Schaefer on about a month ago, and he said, if you want to know what I really think, because he still gives classified briefings to Congress, interview this gentleman, Mr. Steele, who was a CIA actual field commander with the Army. And then we get Steele on, and Steele starts saying, this is a false flag, that's a false flag. They're bringing in martial law because, you know, ISIS basically works for them because that's what's going on. Do you understand that? We're not up here playing patty cake, making stuff up. When I tell you that they're getting ready to release brigade level, I'm talking 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 terrorist sleepers in this country. That's the type of capabilities from my research that Islamic State has in this country. This isn't some fake Al-Qaeda wing, cutouts, decoys set up on 9/11 who are really on CIA payroll. That's confirmed. That's London Guardian, that they were at least double agents, bare minimum, and we're being lied to about what really happened. The 28 pages that Saudi Arabia was intimately involved, and that our government ordered a stand down, bare minimum. That's been confirmed by Congressman Walter Jones that's read the 28 pages. That's been confirmed by Colonel Butler, who was there that day he was on 3 weeks ago, briefing Congress. Congress was told in briefings 95% of the Islamic Jihad force attacking Syria is IS. That's just a catch-all term. ISIL, all of it. I even predicted, I said they'll bomb some little 50-person, 100-person splinter group. They will not bomb their main IS that they equipped and trained. And you notice they couldn't get a resupply because Congress blocked the funds, and the Pentagon refused to ship the weapons because the pilots came on this show and literally got death-threatened and everything else and subpoenaed by the Justice Department. People are like, oh, there's good people in the CIA. They would ship guns to Al-Qaeda. Well, they came on the show and told us all about it. Tosh Plumlee, what do you think that was? The Pentagon wouldn't do it. So they said, okay, just come into Iraq, resupply there. And they do it through Saudi Arabia so they can have plausible deniability. They can fence the money, the weapons. This is what's happening, ladies and gentlemen. And so if I wanted to overthrow America, if I wanted to overthrow what's left of Western civilization, if I wanted to bring in a tyranny so I could then turn the West into an armored compound to launch a global war worldwide to take over the planet for the bankers and destroy the other free countries and the other rogue countries as well as the West while I was at it, I would fund radical jihadists worldwide to threaten the West and to stage horrible atrocities. I would then give them part of the Middle East as their payoff, have their patsies commanded by shadow forces, attack real installations. They will really be killed. There will be real wars with our troops and these people. There will be real police killed by these people. It's a real world fight. But the whole thing is simulated at the top and is synthetic. The word they use is synthetic. This is an artificially manufactured, created system. And the next move, it could be a nuke. They've put a lot of pre-programming out on that, going off in a major city, a huge dirty bomb. But they really want to go after guns. So they'll probably target a Democratic-controlled area where they know they've got a lot of tied-up victims with nobody there to protect them. New York, Chicago, D.C., and they'll go in and just kill it. It could be 200 kids. And then they'll spin it. We need gun control. See, these local ISIS sympathizers got their guns legally at gun shows. I mean, just think about the enemy's mind. Learn how they operate, and what would you do if they were them? That's how I continue to predict what they're going to pull. You would do something like that, or by the way, people that say, oh, don't give them any ideas, believe me, these people already have all these ideas. Let me assure you of that. Do you know what 100 real trained terrorists with asymmetrical warfare can do to an industrialized country? Just unbelievable havoc. And remember, while our southern and northern borders are wide open, they are saying we've got to have the armored vehicles and paramilitary police to counter ISIS when their training is for the Tea Party and gun owners and veterans. And when they're done letting the jihadis attack the West and shoot down airliners with Stinger missiles that our government gave them 15,000 of, bare minimum, they are going to come after all of us, claiming that somehow we were involved or somehow, we launched terror attacks. It's a script they're following. And so I harp on this a lot because this is what I fear. These are the moves I would make if I was the establishment. Plus, we've caught them doing this stuff over and over again. So for me, it's not a question of if, but when. And it's really hard to cover all this other news when we know this. Here's Obama, though, trying to distance himself from the stand down of letting 100,000. There's over 200,000 fighters estimated in Syria attacking Assad and the military. 200,000 head choppers. 100,000, whatever it is. They try to downgrade the numbers to, 13, 20,000. Actual ISIL. The names are all meant to confuse people. We know that. Pouring back into Iraq. And Obama is saying that it's underestimated Islamic State threat. Underestimated. That's like Dr. Frankenstein saying he underestimated what his monster would do. Notice how everything's to manipulate. Our Marines were able to crush them. Which is true. That was like 6 years ago, right as you got into office, that was already done. And then they were allowed, as we told you 3-4 years ago, to set up bases in western Iraq, to prepare for the attack into Syria, and to set up bases in Jordan, and bases in Turkey, and bases in the Golan Heights. Israel helped them. This is in the news. This is admitted in Jerusalem Post. To then launch this all-out coordinated attack. And the argument was, it doesn't matter. They're the only ones that'll fight. Remember 3 years ago in Council on Foreign Relations, Foreign Affairs publication, they had the headline, Why We Need Al-Qaeda. And it said, well, they're the only ones that'll fight. We got to take out Assad. And now we're told they're going to shoot down airliners. They're going to bomb us. They're going to start chopping heads. And the border is wide open. There's the headline. CFR strategist praises al-Qaeda bombings in Syria. 2012, Paul Joseph Watson. And then links to Foreign Affairs in the article where you can read it for yourself. Look at this quote. The Syrian rebels would be immensely weaker today without al-Qaeda in their ranks. By and large, Free Syrian Army battalions are tired, divided, chaotic, and ineffective. Feeling abandoned by the West, rebel forces are increasingly demoralized as they square off with the Assad regime's superior weaponry and professional army, writes the senior fellow of the Middle East Studies in the CFR. And they go on to say, al-Qaeda fighters, however, may help improve morale. And then it goes in to say, the influx of jihadis brings discipline, religious fervor, battle experience from Iraq. Yeah, killing our troops. Think of the sickening Machiavellian statement. Funding from Sunni sympathizers in the Gulf, Saudi Arabia, and most importantly, deadly results. In short, the FSA needs al-Qaeda now, he adds. Good job pulling that up, crew. Remember, listeners, I say something, you can search it, and you can find it. Not making jack squat up here. Does that mean I don't get stuff wrong occasionally or flip dates around? No, I do. And I got a whole team of people in there watching what I say. And they go, hey, he didn't get killed. He shot him. He shot the head chopper. The CEO did. And oh yeah, thanks for reminding me. He wounded the head chopper. He didn't kill him. Because you try thinking on your feet up here with no teleprompter. But the point is, that's why this is different radio/TV than anything else, because we're going off real research here. And I know I've been spending 45 minutes of the first key hour on this, but this is the big enchilada. And I've got to say, again, it is libertarians, it is conservatives, it is police and military are the only groups getting any grasp of this right now. And I listen to so-called liberal media, and it is just a defense of Obama and a defense of what's happening and a defense of all these wars. And they're really coming out of the woodwork attacking us right now, saying we're traitors because we don't want to attack. And they're attacking Rand Paul, saying he doesn't want to attack ISIS. No, he said if we could bomb ISIS, that'd be great. But why did we arm them to begin with? That's the big issue. And that he's not confident in the attacks Obama is ordering launched because they are as phony as a $3 bill. You can rest assured of that.
Now you can watch The Alex Jones Show live as it happens at Infowars.com/show.
You'll find links to all of our content there and a free 15-day trial for Prison Planet TV.
More than 60 movies and documentaries all in one place at Infowars.com/show.